value that they were bringing to the enterprise that made this all solution disruptive, making guys, I want Palo Alto. I am hearing about Palo Alto. I remember before Palo Alto, moved fully to Africa, that is more especially in East Africa, we used to have a couple of banks talk about, you guys don't, do Palo Alto. We want Palo Alto. We've been hearing about Palo Alto. Again, now the issue was a little bit of support. So you realize that some of the customers from those guys who implemented before, they'll tell you that they can sometimes even forget that there was a firewall there. So you might not have this kind of, a new application came in, some kind of upgrade, was done, and then all of a sudden the application crashed or cannot be able to access it. So we'll be able to come up with a way that now does automation. So by a solution that is going to rely on automation, we'll see how we can be able to reduce the number of administrative tasks. Again, some of the features the customer out there might be seeing some kind of value in. As we know, most of our departments, there is some kind of limitation of security experts. So we did a solution that is a little bit complex, a little bit not more complex, something that is intuitive, something that is simple to maintain, visibility. I want to get where I want in the shortest clicks possible. And again, this is the kind of approach that Palo Alto was trying to bring across to the market, and we'll see in a few minutes when we'll be doing some kind of hands-on. We'll see how simple the interface is, how we can be able to maybe navigate to where we want. For those guys who will be asking questions, I want to see feature 1, 2, 3. Then maybe we'll be able to address it as we'll be going through hands-on session. So this session will contain 2 sections, or maybe 3. So we'll have what you call a Kahoot. So a Kahoot is a small session for questions. And then we have the hands-on labs where we'll be able to access the hands-on lab, maybe play around with the gear, try to do 1, 2, 3 policies, and maybe get to see the value of Palo Alto networks. So again, from 2005, being an innovative company, there are a lot of things that have been happening. Each and every day we're seeing new acquisitions for the unpicked companies. Yesterday, I think yesterday, but 2 days ago, there was another acquisition for the cloud again, which is called CloudGenix. So again, augmenting the Prisma that we are going to see. As you can see, 3 sections. So Palo Alto again is innovative. So the first one was the enterprise. So Palo Alto was known by the virtue that they were the pioneers of next generation firewall, which was the enterprise grade firewall. So it again now emerged to be expanding. We wanted to make sure that the cloud where everyone is heading to, all the infrastructure is again covered, and make sure that we can also work on the future. How can we be able to come up with solutions that can be, predictive? I don't want to see when something is happening. So by analyzing different kind of patterns, we can be able to even detect when maybe something is going to occur, so that we can be able to block it. So predictive. So predictive is whereby you can be able to predict patterns in a more active manner. So that is the enterprise that contains now the next generation firewall. We'll be able to see maybe in a few slides how it looks like. Then the second section is called Prisma. So the first one, secure the enterprise. It again, it has transformed because of different solutions that have been also expanded on the platform. Now it's called Strata. So wherever you see the term Strata, maybe I need to update my PowerPoint again. So Strata is the new branding for the enterprise, so which contains the firewall and the cloud solutions. So these are solutions that are delivered from the cloud. They are called Prisma. So Prisma is a family of cloud delivered solutions. Think about software as a service, where we can be able to do firewall as a service. So let's say you don't have maybe a solution, or maybe you don't have a full-fledged company here. Then you want your guys maybe to work from home, or there's a new branch that is somewhere, let's say in Lagos, and the HQ is in, let's say, South Africa, then we can try to have firewall as a service in one of the cloud provider next to Lagos, right? Then we have firewall as a service. So you don't need to have a box there to be able to achieve this. So we leverage on the cloud. So have one interface powered up, we do the connections, then you can be able to reduce the latencies. Then now there is the future, which is called the Cortex. So Cortex is going to address how we can be able to have a next gen fog, how we can be able to leverage data. We know that the future of everything is data. You've been seeing a lot of fights that are happening between different countries, the superpowers, trying to see how which is the first country to be able to fully handle 5G. Then we'll see how why 5G. We'll see that it can be able to do more than 14 times the speed of the normal current LTE or 4G. So which means that it's going to pass a lot of traffic. So why Cortex will know that the more data that you can be able to handle, the more you can be able to strategically be positioned to handle more intelligence. And we'll be seeing a few kind of solutions that Palo Alto is providing to be able to combat the automatic attacks, yeah, what you call the DGS. So the more data that you're going to collect. So one of the solutions that's called Cortex Data Lake. This is a platform that can be able to pull data from different sources, store it in a structured manner that can allow different AI-based applications to be able to consume it. So by having this kind of algorithms, you can be able to match different metrics to be able to come up with a lot of accuracy. And again, this augments the intelligence that we are going to see in a little bit. So three sections. So Strata for the enterprise, Prisma for the cloud, and again Cortex for the future. Yeah. So today we're going to focus more on the securing the enterprise. So which is more of the next generation firewall. So we need to understand what is this that we need to see. How can we make sure that you've got the right solutions? So if you have maybe a firewall, a different vendor that is sitting in your on-prem, how can I be able to evaluate if you want to do maybe hardware refresh? What are these kind of key components, key things that you need to get into consideration to make sure that you're getting the right what, the right architecture, you're getting the right platform that can be able to transform. Not maybe 3 years you need a different hardware, maybe after 2 years. How can you have something that can be able to contain different kind of upgrades, different kind of inventions? So you need to have something that is elastic, like maybe for example the cloud. So for us to be able to understand that, we need to understand where we are coming from. So what is this that is making guys sleepless? I saw some kind of a meme that was going in these professional platforms, how different kind of C level executives try to sleep. Then I'm seeing a CEO sleeping like he's relaxed. Then I'm seeing another CXO. Then what was interesting is when we reached at the CIO, that is the guy who is focusing on the technology and security being part of his docket. He was not asleep. He was just sleeping on his back, trying to figure out what is happening. So it's like some of these CXO levels, they are running some kind of a virtual SOC inside their bedrooms. They're trying to figure out, is someone trying to hit me? Is there someone who's trying to address something that maybe I didn't patch? So is there someone who's trying to leverage on a vulnerability that was announced yesterday? So it's like they're not sleepless. So earlier on, we used to have some kind of peaceful nights.
Ezra, hi Ezra, sorry to interrupt you. The slides are not changing, yeah?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the slides are not changing, so audience are a bit floating, yeah.
Okay, sure. Let me see.
Yeah, and guys, if someone has a question, if you need Ezra to slow down on something, please just interrupt him and just tell him to, slow down, or you're not clear with something, don't keep quiet.
Okay, sorry guys, let me see if there's something I need to fix. Faith, I don't know whether you can see in the beginning.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not yes, okay.
Ezra, we can see only the secure that slides only. You need to change the slide manually.
Okay.
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 Sorry for the inconvenience. Ezra will do the presentation right now. So Ezra, over to you.
You can see now in the beginning?
Yes, I can see.
In the beginning, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Please go ahead.
perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Faith. Okay, sorry again. Sometimes these applications they crash. I don't know, maybe someone's trying to hit me. Okay, so we need to understand what was in the beginning. How was the infrastructure? Why is it that now we're having a lot of sleepless nights? Yesterday it was last week, yeah, over the weekend. One of our of our organizations, not really protected by a panel, one of the schools was doing this Zoom, and the bad guys were able to get in. They used some of the vulnerabilities that have been going around, and then the session was hijacked, and the guys were presented with some naughty stuff. One of the international schools, and again, these are some of the challenges. So I believe Palo Alto had addressed this more than I think a week ago or two. Some of these vulnerabilities by this application Zoom. So again, these are some of the challenges again people are facing each and every day, the facing and the stuff. So in the beginning, we didn't have these kind of scenarios. So we used to have two sections: the internet and the LAN. So two sections. So before the LAN, before things started being distributed, the internet again came in. A LAN was a small community whereby people can interact without any problem. So there was no this kind of corona. You can visit your friend, we can share content. Then again, now issues started coming. This is now when the fencing exactly started. So I remember earlier on, land used to be a community based. So you can just go, we dig together, whatever, we get some good products you can be able to share or eat as a family. Then when now these problems started to come up, this is where now we were able to introduce the firewall. So the firewall came in. This is, I remember when the Cisco ASA appliances were the talk of the town. They were doing some nice jobs. Of course, even now they are doing some nice stuff, of course, in layer 3 and layer 4. So we started having this kind of, no, I want to make sure that I'm allowing only what guys are supposed to be doing. So the introduction of the firewall came in. So there was the issue of trust and untrust. In some more advanced architectures, we used to have also the DMZ because we realized that some of the services that are hosted locally need to be published over the internet. So then what was to be done is to introduce this firewall to make sure that there is some kind of segregation of this data. So people had to sit down. Again, we saw some kind of transition now from this to some things like UTM. But before the UTM, what used to happen? So the firewall was there, but the firewall was not handling the SSL inspection. Most of the traffic was plain text. I hope, Harry, you can see this slide. Better security meant for appliances. Yeah. Larry, Faith, guys, I don't know whether it's still transitioning.
It is in the beginning. Can you change the slides? Go ahead,
No,
Ezra.
okay. So firewall was not doing the SSL. So what did it mean? You had to bring in a different vendor to do SSL inspection. For example, maybe F5. You wanted a proxy, then you go for Symantec. Then you wanted to have WAF, maybe you go for Radware, Upwall. You needed an IDS, IPS, and again an antivirus. So all these solutions were complex because every solution here, as you can see, it does its own stuff. As much as it's good for super security, but again, it introduces a lot of complexity. The cost is abnormal. So you got an approval for maybe a WAF recently, then another guy is coming for an IPS. It does the presentation, it makes sense. Then again, you can't go to the management, then start telling them, oh guys, there is an antivirus that I was told that has to be doing its job. Please, this is what the firewall is not doing. It's doing just layer 3 and layer 4. So we need to make sure that the antivirus is also doing the stuff. So this is a problem. So for the IT guys, this is a challenge because they need also to start learning again. In most of the organizations, I am sure that you'll find the IT manager is the one who's doing the support, or maybe he has 1 or 2, 3 guys or 3 interns who might not be able to have the experience to handle all these kind of solutions. So again, it'll be the point of contact. Please do this, calls everywhere. So you can't get enough time to do what? To do these works, to also learn how an antivirus works and then be able to fine tune it. So these kind of challenges were becoming hectic. So not only from the cost perspective, or many appliances which are going to reduce, to introduce a lot of complexities and a learning curve, they were introducing another vulnerability. So which is this another vulnerability? One of the vulnerabilities is the users themselves. That's what we learned. We learned a few months ago. Users. So if you can't train your users, then there's a problem. They're going to introduce malwares, clicking everywhere. They want to download everything. Then also the IT guys themselves, because they can't get all this enough time on earth to be able to start all these solutions, they're going to do what? Default. The auditors are coming, most of them, they realize that these solutions have been installed default. So, which is again going to introduce some kind of security gaps in our environment. So, we were to come up with a better way to consume these things. So, was there to be a better way to reduce this cost from multi-vendor environment, from these appliances that are introducing different ways in which we could consume this? Then here came another way we need to address this. So how can we make sure that we are doing things differently? So what happened is to make sure that we are consuming things under one platform. So the better way to consume this is to make sure that whichever the solution that's going to come has to prevent successful attacks. Not like, for example, an IDS, intrusion detection system. Yes, it has detected and logged. So what? Is to make sure that we are doing as much automation as possible. Not wherever the new application is coming, you need to go to the firewall, add it. How can we have things like application filters in Palo Alto that can be able to come up with the different kind of characteristics? For example, create one application filter that looks at, for example, if it's a peer-to-peer application with a security level of 4 that is doing file transfer, that has got a risk again of this level, that is under category maybe adult content or maybe phishing category, block this. So if there is a new application that's going to come tomorrow, or there's a new URL category that's going to come tomorrow, you don't need to go manually and edit this from the firewall. You just need to go direct. You just need to go to the firewall, pick the right update, and this automatically is going to be enforced on that kind of rule that you have created. So With this kind of automation, you don't need to focus on other critical matters. Maybe learn about something new. Also expand your knowledge on the new attack vectors and see how you can be able to also reduce this. How can we be able to make sure that we consuming innovations quickly? So new solutions are coming. How can we make sure that we are also consuming this kind of innovation? So these are the three things that a serious solution should help you. So by talking about automation and consuming innovations quickly, we already talking about how artificial intelligence. Automation cannot come with just any data. For you to do automation and do maybe deep machine learning, you need the right data for you to be able to do this. And this is what Cortex, we talked about this before, can be able to do. Consume innovations quickly. How can we be able to have a platform that if anything that is going to come on board, we can be able to do this quickly? So what are these key things that this kind of architecture need to address, right? So some of these things is to make sure that we have got solutions. I hope you can see this screen, the right network security foundation. So we have to make sure that the user is visible. We creating policies based on a user, not just an IP address. We have to make sure that we have a policy that is based on the application, not just a port. We need to make sure that we have a solution that is content aware, which is trying to transfer my PPT application to an archiving platform. Why is he moving this content that I can see is marked private and confidential? Then it triggers a rule to you, maybe to your desk. You get a mail that this guy from marketing is trying to transfer an Excel from maybe from the finance team that is marked private and confidential. So we need to get deep packet inspection, get the content, not just ports. Also, we need to make sure that we've got different deployment flexibility. We talked about the digital transformation from the on-prem to the cloud. How can we make sure that if you're moving to the cloud or you've got workloads which are the cloud, people who are moving in different locations, we can be able to extend the same security to make sure that everybody is protected by the same security policies that are within the enterprise. So another key thing is to make sure that we have got simple, so mark the word simple and consistent management. So know that whenever you are going to bring in a management interface or a management device, then again it needs to send you to school or to a learning management system to start again learning from scratch. So you need to have some kind of consistent and simple management. You get what you want to get in as few clicks as possible. The intuitiveness. We all know how Microsoft was able to win this market for bringing in an intuitive solution that can be able to help the non-IT guys to be able to navigate easily without any challenges. So anything simple can help us reduce the time that we are going to take trying to boil the ocean to get where we want. I want, if this is a report, it's a nice report that shows the user maybe Edwin, who is trying to access application Facebook, then the content is trying to share maybe a picture. Enforce security as immediate as possible. Okay, so the right foundation gives you insight and policy control. Harry man, today I think I have to trouble you a little bit. So I don't know whether you can also be able to see this slide. The right foundation gives you insight and policy control.
No, Ezra. Can you change the slide?
Thank you.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, then I think I'll not present. So we might miss a little bit of animations, but we'll see how we can be able to fix that one maybe in a short while. So the right foundation has to give you the kind of insight. We talked about that you cannot be able to protect what you can't do, what you can't see, what you don't know. So if I cannot know that maybe this IP address 64.81.2.23 is from the attacker side, then how can you be able to block this? So the kind of visibility that you wanted to bring across is to eliminate the first column, which talks about the source IP. So from the bottom, we can be able to see something that makes sense to us. For those guys who've been in the industry for quite some time, this is how ESA used to implement their policies. So this we used to call this layer 4 or layer 3, layer 4 based policies. So layer 3 in a manner that you're trying to block or allow a source IP that is trying to access content on a certain port, for instance 443, and is going to the destination of this IP or this network. So we'll understand shortly how ports are never what we expected them to be. 4443 might not be HTTPS. Port 53, for example, cannot be DNS, and so on and so forth. So we need to come with a policy that even if it's someone who's not from the IT side, it can't be able to make sense to him. For example, we need to have a one flow from one single pane. I can be able to see or read that policy and make sense to me. So, for example, you need to come up with a policy like when you see Joe Davis is trying to access HTTP or HTTPS. So, for example, 443 is HTTP running on SSL. Then this IP is Canada, so it's trying to access this stuff from Canada. So Joe Davis, where is Joe Davis? So Joe Davis is in the finance team. What he's trying to do is trying to do a slide share or access a slide share application that is an online backup and storage solution. And what he's trying to do with this slide share is trying to upload a PPT. And from our content awareness game, we can see that he's trying to access a document that is written, private and confidential. So by having this kind of visibility or insight, you can be able to come up with a better policy control. So again, this is where some kind of animation. I don't know whether it will work. Let me try. So I want to try this animation because it doesn't seem to be making more sense. So the introduction of the next generation firewall was to make sure that we have got this visibility. So all these kind of solutions that were being bought by from different vendors by the IT team, we put it in one platform. So I don't know, Ari, can you see this kind of animation?
No, I'm not able to see that animation, but it is in introduction of next generation firewall. You can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next generation firewall was to make sure that all these kind of solutions can be put together in one platform. So to make sure that you can be able to consume all those kind of resources from a single pane. So how was this possible? So instead of buying an IPS as a silo solution or a point solution, buy an antivirus, buy an IDS, buy a proxy, then also maybe buy a firewall. So all these solutions were to be put together and be consumed as one solution. All right. So by default, we ship the first next generation solution by the things that we talked about. So it has to be application aware, not just support. It has to be user aware, not just an IP address. It has to be content aware, yeah, not just a port. So we have to make sure that the content we are not just internet. Which kind of this content that we are trying to address here? So again, this is where now the next generation firewall was to address. So we don't want a scenario whereby these things, as Palo Alto was the pioneer, they came up with the next generation firewall. So if someone is selling you a next generation firewall which doesn't have app ID, use ID, and content ID by default free, not licensed, mark my words. So things like app ID out of the box, this is free. In Palo Alto, we don't do what? We don't sell app ID. So this is part of the next generation firewall. Then again, we have to make sure that there is a seamless integration built from bottom up, not try to stitch this solution together in order to do what? To provide a solution. Because some of you may be asked, so what is this kind of value that these solutions are to bring across? So we realize that from the UTM market, we used to have something like an hypervisor, then virtual machines inside. So let's say you had an hypervisor, for example, you are doing virtualization on your machine, that is your PC. Then from this, you are getting a scenario whereby 14 GB is the total memory for the hypervisor, and maybe you've got 10 cores. So if you allocate 10 cores, from these 10 cores, you allocate the first virtual machine, you allocate it to 2 gigabits of RAM and maybe 3 cores. So what does it mean? It means that you're decrementing from the resource pool that you have, isn't it? So the more you turn on these virtual machines, they are going to share these kind of resources that are within the hypervisor. So we'll see that the introduction of these kind of virtual machines, which now are the vendors called engines, doing different kind of stuff, they introduced some kind of issues which were, for example, when you turn on app ID engine, the performance is going to go down because the resources from the resource pool of the hypervisor are going to be decremented, which again is going to have some issues with the performance. So these are some of the challenges that needed to be addressed. So what are these kind of now features that you have to make sure that we consume? Wildfire was one of them. So Ari, can you see Wildfire? I'm trying also to change it manually. It's a little bit scrambled, right?
No, you
It's
need to
scrambled.
change.
Okay, just a minute. Sorry, guys. Okay, so Just a minute. All right, Harry, you can see now the presentation.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
All right. So just something small. Is the animation now working?
Please go ahead, Ezra.
All right. All right. So I don't know whether you can be able to see those kind of subscription, Wildfire. Harry, can you see Wildfire? The subscriptions.
No, 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 no. Just you up down the slide. It will reflect.
Sorry guys, this is a minute. I'm trying to see some of the slides become scrambled. Let me see if I can fix that. And you can see now.
Yeah,
You can see this the presentation now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay, is it moving in slides?
Yeah, it is in animation mode, so you can go ahead.
Okay. Okay, sure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Please go ahead
Okay.
on the present.
Okay. Okay, fine. Sorry about that because we could have not continued because some of the things were a little bit scrambled. So again, we talked about this. So this was the plain way in which things were done. Then introduction of HTTP. Then we talked about how we can be able to grade, maybe from not only create policies based on either finance or be able to come up with the policies based on a user himself. For example, I can say for all the remote access tools, I don't want to leave them in unsafe hands because we can see even from the couple of attacks that we normally see from the Kenyan side or East Africa. And I also had one of the such cases in Nigeria, is that someone comes with a flash disk. It might be someone from the marketing where you expect this to be done from a list. Then what happens is someone is going to bring this flash. It will run something. Then, or maybe this guy is going to come up with, let's say, TeamViewer is on his desktop. So he run this with TeamViewer. Then he'll give access to the bad guys who might be a little bit techy to take over this. So by limiting or coming up with a policy to only limit remote access tools like TeamViewer, remote desktop to only finance guys, so this can be able to reduce the attack vector by more than 70%. So why this is essential is that instead of creating a user by a user allowing them policies, it can allow you to do one group, do one policy. If next day another guy is going to come to IT team, you don't need to go to the firewall again, add this user. So long as it picks this content, for example, from Elder or a certain group that is created from one central repository, this automatically adds this user and he can be able to use this kind of privileges. So what we're seeing from the role-based role-based access control solutions that we see mostly from the cloud, right? So be able to categorically see the exact content. Which kind of action is he doing? Uploading or is he doing downloading? So this kind of granularity can also make even our reports be much clean. So here is what I wanted us to see. So we talked about different siloed solutions, IPS, WAF, this. Trust me, if you buy these solutions as a single solution and buy this as one platform, there will be savings up to more than, let's talk about 150%. So our next generation firewall was to make sure that it has got all this under one solution, put them together, then come up with the next generation firewall. So the UTM market used to do this. We talked about the hypervisor, analogy, whereby these things are happening, but the initial hardware architecture was not meant to what? To address all these things. So you add a virtual machine inside the same kind of limitation with the approach on how the consumption of these resources is predetermined, then we are going to see some kind of applications which might be hoggy in terms of resources, taking over the resources. And the aftermath is that there are going to be something like a single point of failure. So if one solution is going to take time to try to come up with a policy, then it will make sure that there is going to be a packet delay. We'll see shortly how the output of one blade or the output of one module is going to be the input of the second blade or engine. So the architecture, and again, the next generation firewall was to make sure that all these things come into place. And one of the key things they were to make sure that they achieve is visibility, not just IP addresses. So we have to make sure that we are seeing consistent visibility across the infrastructure by being able to see who is that user by name, not the IP, going to what server, accessing what application. Then we had to come up with subscriptions that can be able to augment this next generation firewall to be able to do what it does better. So the first subscription is Wildfire. So what is Wildfire? So Wildfire is Palo Alto Network's sandboxing solution. So Wildfire protects us against zero-day attacks. This is something that maybe we are seeing today that we have never seen before. So our platform has never seen this before. Maybe this is a firewall, this is a malware that has been created like 3 minutes ago. So if we have never seen this file before, we'll push it to Wildfire. So Wildfire is going to do analysis, not only static analysis, it is going now to force it to bare metal analysis, whereby it is now going to do like the real-time analysis, like as if that malware was running on a laptop or a desktop. One of the limitations the current sandboxing environment have is that they cannot be able to run this on a what? On a bare metal. So what is going to happen is we are not going to get the verdict 90%. If you look at some of the latest research from NSS Labs, you realize that our effectiveness is the leading. That is around 97%. What does it mean? Is that the accuracy of the engines. So what is this that is augmenting this kind of accuracy? Is the Wildfire. So other vendors try to run this on virtual machines, and the sophistication of the latest malwares is that they can be able to sense that I'm running on a virtual machine. So what will it do? It will not execute. So the sandboxing environment will say this is a good file. Please let's go ahead and let's execute. They can be able to achieve this by using different metrics. For example, it can be able to query what is this, what is the temperature of this device. So because the virtual environment or the VM does not interface directly to the hardware, it cannot be able to get this. It will return a 0. Hence, it will know that I'm running on this. It can't be able to check the keystrokes. So by us going to an extra level of running this malware on a bare metal hardware, what will happen is that we'll now be able to come up with the exact verdict. So we'll be able to narrow down, reduce the false positives. So we have got another one, the threat evasion, now that contains also the antivirus in it. So this protects us from different array of malware, threats that are going to be conveyed via the infrastructure from the firewall or anything that's going to come from the threats that are going to come from the traffic that you're going to consume from the internet. Then we've got URL filtering, which now is going to enable us get more clean rules. For example, if this is a URL that we had seen before from the bad guys, so we'll automatically include it in our database. So we can block based on those malicious URLs. We know that this URL, we know it's a bad URL, so please don't go to this site. I want to block all the gambling sites. This is where URL comes in. I want to block all maybe non-phishing sites. So this is where URL filtering again comes very handy. So another solution that we have, that's again making Palo Alto a little bit competitive in the market. I'm sure nobody's doing now DNS security, inline DNS security on the platform. That's what I mean. If maybe anybody thinks there's another solution that's doing DNS security, maybe you can comment on the chat below. Then you can be able to discuss this maybe when we'll be doing the Q&A. So it's only Palo Alto that is doing DNS security inline. That is platform, not consuming from the cloud. That is what you call maybe out of band or not inline. So any solution that is being able to do things inline, then it shows some kind of level of accuracy, unlike passive mode. So this is again one of the features that I normally see most of the banks are trying to query. Most of the security focused organizations want to see. Why? Most of the attacks that we are experiencing today are being propagated by artificial intelligence. I remember there was a competition that happened a few years ago in US. So this is a competition between machines and humans competing. So they're given one specimen or one target. Then they try to attack it, discover the vulnerabilities, and also exploit them. So there's this Galaxy machine that was able to beat humans by far, hands down, and it was able to discover this kind of vulnerabilities by using artificial intelligence. Nobody is doing what? Nobody is operating this machine. So what does that tell you? We are competing against machines. So there's a machine that is sleeping somewhere, knows about the trends in Nigeria. Guys sleep from 9 p.m. Nobody is operating on the bank. So this is the best time to do the scanning. This is the best time to utilize the vulnerability. So if you don't have a solution that is again leveraging on artificial intelligence to fight another artificial intelligence, then this is where another vulnerability or a security gap that's going to come. So please, if you find time, please try to maybe do a little bit of research on DNS security, or if someone has a question, if you want me to elaborate more, then we can also discuss that one during the discussions about question and answer session. So DNS security protects us from DGS, what we call dynamically generated algorithms. So this is a system of creating small URLs that are short-lived. So think about a URL or a domain that's going to last for something like 5 seconds. Let's talk about 30 seconds. So by the time your IT team or your SOC analysts are going to start, querying try to, doing a reverse DNS lookup, try to understand what it's already dead. Delivered what it was meant to deliver. Maybe it's a small snippet of a malware code, then it was. Then all of a sudden now it creates another code using maybe the inbuilt native tools like PowerShell to bring all these kind of snippets together in order to form a malware attack. So what does this do? It's going to be able to ensure that it can be able to go past the normal firewalls, which don't have this DNS security. So DNS security again uses machine learning and to be able to sense this kind of patterns. Because remember, this is a machine that follows a certain kind of a pattern. For example, if you do 44 URL 81, then 45 URL 82, then skip a little bit, then again to go to another pattern. So these kind of URLs are going to be generated randomly, but following a certain pattern. Now that DNS security can be able to detect and control. So by doing this, again, trying to cut off this attack vector. So the last one, not least, because again, the innovations of Palo Alto, things move each and every day. We've got Global Protect. So what is this? So this Global Protect is one of my peers called VPN on steroids. So why is this VPN on steroids? The normal VPN solution, remote access VPN, we don't license it. This is free. You want to access to the internet? This is what I normally tell the IT guys who know what to do, what to access and where, what not to download, how to ensure the sanity of their PCs can use. So the normal VPN is free, but the Global Protective VPN solution has got some kind of advanced capabilities, like NAC capabilities in it. It can be able to check what is the security status of the device. For example, does it have the latest patches? Does it have the latest maybe antivirus? What kind of security profile you can attach to this to make sure that if this machine then falls within this range, then please don't allow it to access some special resources or company critical infrastructure. Otherwise, it can also be able to get to leverage on things that's getting from Wildfire threat intelligence cloud, which again can be able to assist in making more customizing or tuning on its own algorithms that it uses to make sure that this heap profile are checked as per. So you can see there is another one which is green, which means it's a little bit new, but not that new. This was introduced late last year, that is December, and this is one of new subscriptions that is coming on board. So SD1, why SD1? So most of the people are moving from the normal one-based solutions to a more SD, which is software-defined wide area network. So this can be able to do some kind of more intelligent stuff. For example, why should a user from Lagos try to go back to maybe Abuja, where the HQ is, then access things, then access Office 365? We know that maybe, for example, LinkedIn is based on the internet. So why should I backhaul, pass through the MPLS, go to the HQ, then from the HQ go to that Palo Alto device, then go to the internet? So this is going to first saturate the pipe, increase a lot of latency because of the hopes that's going to pass. Unlike the firewall with the SD1 capabilities, look at the application. Check on this application destination supposed to be going through the internet. So if I demarcate or from this or I just exit from this firewall that is in the branch level in Lagos, or maybe a branch in maybe Zambia, or maybe another one in Ghana, instead of going back, you can go direct to the cloud, because we understand that most of our solutions now are cloud-based. So this ensures that there is QoS, user experience is going to be optimized. It checks, for example, you have got termination of 4 links. You've got LTE, you've got another one, maybe you are using another list line, and maybe 3. So it can be able to check all these 3 lines to see which one has got the minimal latency, and automatically do the configuration on software level, not changing, things like the pings and the stuff. You might be suffering from what you call browning. So browning is whereby there's some kind of latency. For example, if I say pinging, there's a pinging, so one timeout, three timeouts, four timeouts. So the service is up, but not fully up. So by measuring what is the response rate on this link, so it can be able to use that link that is a little bit faster to be able to do this kind of delivery. All right. So this is one of the latest. So again, I talked about CloudGenix, which is again another solution that is being introduced on the cloud or the Prisma family to be able to also augment on the SD1. So you can also check on that one. CloudGenix is another very powerful solution as much as SD1 is concerned, and see which kind of value that it will be add. We'll be talking about this on the next session, that we'll be talking about Prisma, to be able to a little bit expand on our cloud-based solutions. All right, so someone might be asking, this is what other guys are doing. I mean, Checkpoint is doing this, or Fort is doing this. This is where now another value comes in that has been seeing Palo Alto onboarding year over year, 30% growth year over year. Why? Because security works. Security is the only section whereby you can't do gambling. Like you can take a D-Link switch, maybe Juniper switch, or take a Huawei switch, put it on the network, and everything works. So long as you're getting packets, everything's okay. So security, one of the key things that guys look at when it comes to security, it has to be a solution that works. It has to be fast, and it has not to introduce some kind of issues of latency and user bad experiences in the network. So the traditional approach is that the UTM, especially from the UTM guys who used to be the UTM vendors, what they're doing is they are merged all these solutions together, like maybe the NGFW. But now there was overload because the architecture was not meant to be done that way. Remember, Palo Alto built this from zero up, not build something, then they hear that something was being consumed, then they put it on the same hardware. So this kind of putting together from the previous UTM hardware led to what? An overload. So this meant that whenever you turn on maybe for an IPS engine, it's going to slow down or reduce the throughput capacity on the engine. So why was this happening? It's because the way traffic was passing. I talked about this earlier before. Now this is the best time we have a look at this. So how is traffic moving in this traditional approach, the UTMs and other solutions who are not using the right architecture? We talked about that the solution that you're consuming has to have the right architecture. So a packet is coming, firewalling is done, SSL inspection is done, if it's turned on, because sometimes it's not, proxy is done. So you realize that the output of this WAF is going to be the input of the IDS. The output of IDS is the input of the IPS, and so on and so forth. So you see that if, for example, the WAF tends to hold some packets a little bit longer because of the small resources that it was accorded, because not all these solutions are going to go through WAF policies, then you see that it's going to increase the amount of time that it will get the input for the IDF. So by the time the packet is going to the LAN, it's almost midnight. So these kind of latencies is guys don't want to see. You'll be getting a lot of calls from the IT team. Guys, what is happening? We're seeing a lot of latencies. Later on, when we are doing one of these kind of project in one of the banks in Kenya, we realized that someone had turned on, during that time I was doing a web application firewall, then we realized that someone had turned on an IDS, an IPS in the firewall overnight when guys were not there. Tested, everything is working. Then later on, when now people, all the users are in the infrastructure, now issues are starting up. So who they know is that guy who was doing the off before. After doing a little bit of troubleshooting, we realized that some guys had turned on the IPS in the previous night, then this is what is bringing all these issues. Lucky enough is that our WAF during that time was out of band. It was not inline. Then we were able to come up with all these kind of latencies. So how is Palo Alto doing things differently? All right. This is one of the key secrets, and this is why you realize that most of these Palo Alto solutions, they are not being manufactured in China or Taiwan or these other countries because of one of these critical sources. They want to make sure that nobody's getting out of it, and this is what is making, guys, most of these solutions not complete as per with the with Palo Alto network. So what is this secret source? It's called single pass parallel processing. Single pass parallel processing architecture. It's also called sometimes SP3 because of the double P's in pass parallel processing. So why is this unique? You realize that customers will ask about, fine, performance. What do you think guys will go for? What is the expectation of the customer? Do you want security, or you want only performance? The normal users might go for, I want something that is speed, I want something that is fast. I request, I receive immediately. So for the IT guys, they might be saying, okay, speed is good, but no, I have to be secure. I don't want to receive funny calls. I don't want to get my data outside, because again, your job will be inline if this happens. So what happened is they had to go and turn off the IPS so that this security, this kind of performance issues have to be solved. But is this the best way? So single pass parallel processing promises on those two things without compromising each other. So I want to make sure that I'm giving you all security features, all the performance as per, but again, not trying to make sure that your security is compromised. So this is what every IT guy, every department is looking for. Performance without, so they want both. So some guys might want one, but this is one of the key things most of the IT guys are looking out there. So how does now the flow? What makes it a little bit different? So we have to make sure that the packets are passing once, not waiting for the output of this to be the input of that, and this should be done in parallel. Okay? So they change the blades to run in parallel. So whatever the packet is coming, they create a span, copies once, the engines check whatever that is happening is supposed to be checked. You compress, everyone is returning with their own verdict, policy applied based on yes or no or the policies, and pop, everything goes to the LAN. This is real time, guys, and this is what has, if you go online check on the comparison between this and other platforms, maybe Checkpoint, Cisco, 40, or maybe so forth, you realize that guys will be talking about this feature like always. This is one of the key things that they've been looking for. This is what they want. If you check on some of the, on some of the slides or spec sheets of this platform, they'll tell you for free that this was at 90% gigabits per second. Next, it will go to 70. Yeah, it will go to 60. So something that was passing 8 gigabits per second, you turn on one engine, it goes to up to more than 350% decrement in the throughput. So what is this supposed to be meaning to you? Yeah, so performance issues. So these are some of the things that guys are looking at, and they want to make sure that if I'm bringing up a solution, it's going to make sure that this consistency is achieved. Okay, so I want to pull out maybe I want to pull out one of the